I pride myself in making sure that when I do these investigations, and they're not easy to do, they're sensitive, there's personality conflicts involved, there's politics involved. I come into this with finding the truth. And I'll dig. And I'm good at digging. And I dug up a lot of stuff people don't want to talk about, admit to, or even begin to approach. Let's talk about Scott. He voluntarily subjected himself to several polygraphs. As I said to you, they were formulated. Okay? I want you to know in those questions we made sure, and the polygraph operator made sure words like deliberately and intentionally were in there. Mr. Svab, did you intentionally delay purchase orders? Did you deliberately delay purchase orders? Because that's what the accusations are. That he went out of his way to deliberately and intentionally. That's the kind of an example of what was used. Secondly, I want you to know there was no financial loss at all. We found no financial loss at all because of his action. Okay? That has to be a consideration. You doing a good job or a bad job? Hey, if you're losing us a couple $100,000, you're doing a bad job. But guess what we found out? They're mad about insurance. They're mad about bids. They're mad about this. Your finance director saved you $150,000 on a contract over 3 years. He got another small bid on another contract and he saved you another $15,000. But we want to turn around for the same action or not completing an action and we want to terminate him. So I got to look at, is there a financial loss? The answer was no, there was a financial gain by his employment. And at the same time, they were rewarding him up to the point of the disagreement. So what really stimulated this thing? Here's the bottom line that stimulated it. Council passes a resolution that Joe Diemert will no longer be paid the way he's been paid in the past. His law firm is a subcontractor. His billings that I personally looked at had listings for billings to the citizens of this city and to the council, such as, I'm charging you for review of legislation. Anybody here want to tell me what review of legislation is, how much time you spend on it, what legislation, when, where, how, and who would want to be billed on that? So council was concerned about the billing, about the verbiage, about how they were getting billed, how much money they were losing. They passed a resolution that says, look, we want more details, we want more responsibility on the billings. We want you more accountable. Law director, acting law director, law firm for the city. Does council have the right and should they be asking? Yeah. Now, up to that point, I'm not crazy about how he did his billing. I don't think it's criminal. Is it, in my book, a little bit vague, maybe unethical? I could probably argue that. But it doesn't matter. When council passed that resolution, it changed. Mr. Diemert goes to Scott and says, pay me. And Scott says, they just passed new legislation. There's no money in that account to pay you. And Mr. Diemert was very upset about it. He wanted to be paid anyway. So now you have a law director asking and demanding a finance director to pay money in a fund that doesn't exist. That is an ethical violation. He would be personally liable and criminally liable for that order and that demand. He stood up to him and said no. State auditor cleared Scott of any criminal wrongdoing. Prosecutor Margaret Scott made it clear none of the allegations were of any type of criminal, and we talked about some of the other things. Scott's son was supposed to be hired. Could have been hired. There was controversy there. I won't get into that. But the bottom line is, once again, this started with some personality conflicts between Joe Diemert and Scott. What happened is we had a lot of employees come forward after we started exposing some of this, and a lot of current and past employees and past management basically stating that a lot of intimidation is going on a lot of politics, a lot of intimidation, and a lot of retaliation if you speak up.
Okay, did you receive our supplemental report to council from October of 2014 documenting on-duty time by Scott Svab, 125 pages of personal work for Canal Fulton or his pea business while he was checked in on duty in the city of Macedonia? Did you review those?
I was made aware of it.
You didn't review them?
I reviewed some of it.
Yes.
The use of the computer had been reviewed by the auditor. It was my understanding that the auditor cleared him of that and said there wasn't any cause there. So based on that, I did not pursue that.
Okay. Now, there were a lot of things in your report that the auditor had already touched on. A lot of things. And you chose to still talk about them and report on them and investigate them. Your goal, as I understood it, was not just to investigate criminal behavior, like the auditor's report said. Your goal was to any improper behavior that would justify a civil termination of employment by a municipal government. Now, why did you not comment on these emails?
As I stated in the beginning, we were provided so many accusations, numerous accusations, and I stated again at the beginning, Mr. Diemert, we went $8,000 over in our investigation and absorbed it, and I stated, I stated again, we did not have the ability, money, or time to investigate everything, and I stood here and I will say it again to everybody, we absolutely, the truth is, I just didn't have the ability, time, and money to look at every single thing. We had to pick what we considered the major accusations, which I was presented.
Let me talk about the first finding you had where you talked about falsification of public records. Okay, well, Eric Postel, the ODNR Aquatics Grant Supervisor, who was actually there, said in his auditor's report, this isn't my investigation, this is the auditor's investigation. He would never tell someone to change the dates on their paperwork to be in compliance with the grant. You didn't quote that. That's the state auditor's office saying that, right? The writer of this report reviewed the investigation of Macedonia's law department and confirmed that Svab lied to them in regards to obtaining permission from ODNR to sell equipment from Macedonia to Canal Fulton. The employee Svab referred to from ODNR, Sean Landon, never spoke with Svab in his life. Now, do you remember reading that in the auditor's report? Or didn't you think that was important either?
I told you, ODNR, once again, I did not review that. I did not consider it in the accusations because ODNR didn't want to do anything about it. Once again, that will be up to council.
Is it because your goal was to exonerate Scott Svab?
My goal was to get the truth.
Well, then why didn't you report these truths from a state agency record? Why didn't you report them? Now, you recall there was thousands of dollars of premiums that we were paying for motor vehicles that were not actually in our fleet anymore, correct? Scott told you, and obviously told all of us, that that's the service department's fault. And you quoted that as though it's true. Do you believe that to be true? 30 vehicles excess premiums being paid for. He told you service department was supposed to do it. Why wouldn't you check that fact out and find that, in fact, that's not the law? The law requires him to keep track of all those vehicles.
When the paperwork was not at his location and was at another location, and the fact that council already had that information that you just read here, my job as an investigator is not to tell people everything they already know.
No, they asked you to confirm whether or not the findings the administration made were true or not. And you chose to not even support any of the allegations with what the facts are. So, did you interview any of the prior finance directors in the city of Macedonia, the last 2 or 3, about these issues? Didn't you think that would be important, that his immediate predecessors and how they handled just this one issue of the list of property and the inventory would be important for you to know? That's not important?
Mr. Diemert, I appreciate the question. And the only thing I can tell you is, I spent $8,000 over.
They didn't give you enough money.
They didn't give me
And
enough
you should
money,
charge more.
and they didn't give me enough time, and I'm not asking for more money. What I'm saying is, I did an investigation on a lot of the accusations. We found out a lot. We provided a lot.
Okay, but I don't want to win all that other
Of
stuff. Let's
information.
stick to this issue. I know you want
It
to
falls.
keep repeating.
No, it falls underneath there.
It doesn't.
We found,
I asked you if you
we
talked to fire finance.
provided additional information for the council to consider along with the previous information
About everybody except
that was
the
obtained.
man you were supposed to be investigating.
We provided plenty about
Well, then why
Scott.
didn't you talk to prior finance directors? You would have found out that the fleet of vehicles has always been kept in the finance department prior to Mr. Svab. You didn't know that because you didn't ask anybody, right?
No, we didn't talk to anybody
Okay,
previously.
and you know that the reason for that is they use the inventory of equipment and vehicles and property to get insurance specifications out so we can get lawful quotes on our insurance for property and vehicles. And this time we didn't get it because Scott gave them 30 more vehicles than we actually owned. Do you find that at all to be an improper action on an employee who lost taxpayer dollars?
What, I can appreciate your question. What I find improper is, I submitted a report with information of facts and information of additional stuff that should be looked at. I think this report should be taken by yourself and council, and you should make a list of those additional questions or investigations you want that are a result of my investigation that caused you to want to know more, and I would be more than happy to pursue those additional facts of information if that's what you want.
Scott brought in also the insurance guy who got paid for 30 vehicles that we didn't own, and he paid him premiums. Do you think that's a relationship that maybe Scott should have revealed, that this insurance man was also his personal insurance man? Do you think he should have revealed that?
A lot of people for the city are not, we're not revealing their previous relationships. We're not revealing and following proper bids, proper registration. My point is, if you want to reprimand Scott for that, let's just say you do want to reprimand him for it, let's say it's true, you have other managers in this city and leaders who did the same thing.